In this following insert, we travelled to a farm just outside Koster and met with a very unique lady, Norma Mundy, who runs a dairy farm, but in fact makes all her money from cheese making. A very unique lady who we would like you to meet. Norma, welcome to our program. What interested you and Dennis in, say, moving here to Koster, for instance?
Ach, it's lovely here.
Ach, it's lovely here.
Yes, ach man. No, it is. It's a beautiful place. We had the chance of the farm. We could afford it. It wasn't too far away from the family. And we just love it here. It's nice. The people are nice.
Are they?
Oh, yeah, they're great. When Dennis was ill, we had complete strangers. You know, we'd only been here about 6 months. And complete strangers ran the farm for us while he was in hospital. Absolutely marvellous. Where else would you get that sort of thing?
Originally from Hull in Yorkshire, England, the Mundys emigrated to Kenya. Having enjoyed the African lifestyle and for the benefit of their 4 children's education, they trekked down south, settling in Johannesburg, and on retirement in 1984, moved to their little Eden.
Yes, it does remind us of Kenya. It's, I like the trees, I like the hillside. There's nice water here. That was very important. We looked for water when we came. Had to have a good strong borehole.
The farm is 300 acres in extent, situated just outside Koster in the Western Transvaal. Their intention was to farm beef, knowing that dairy farming is a 365-day-a-year business.
We didn't intend to, you know, Rod. It's one of those things that's happened to us, like many things do happen to people. Having got the milk, we had more milk than we could use. And there's no real way that you can produce milk for the price that the big boys want to pay you for it, and make a profit. And I object to making a loss. And being in Koster, we're a long way away from fresh milk sales because people can go anywhere and get the fresh milk from the next door farm. So we felt that the only way to do it was to make a product that we could store. And the obvious one was cheese.
Norma had a background in cheese making. She learnt from her mum, who had in turn learned from her mum. She called it slave labour in those days, but this was to stand her in good stead.
The Frieslands, I like to have the Frieslands in because they produce a small fat globule. The Jerseys are beautiful, marvellous milk producers. High quality milk, which is perfect for the cream cheeses. But when it comes to things like the cheddar, the fat size, not the actual amount of fat, but the fat globule is actually too big. And so I turn it down a little bit by bringing in a few Frieslands. I like to have about 50-50 Jersey and Frieslands. One of the problems with dairy farmers is that they start off with a couple of dairy cows and they end up with milking 80 a day and the most incredible equipment, hundreds of labourers, and costing them a fortune, and they never know whether they're making a profit or not. We decided that when we started, we didn't want that sort of a setup, so we crossbreed our dairy cows with the Angus bull. And that means that we just have a certain number and it stays that number. If we lose one, we buy a new one in.
Pendle Hill Dairy is named after a hill in England and produces about 200 to 250 litres of milk a day, which Norma estimates to be her optimum. She does all the milking and cheese making herself, as she has found hired labour to be unreliable, the lack of effort and commitment often leading to poor quality cheese. Her dairy cows give her on average 16.5 litres per cow per day. The 2-machine milk parlour is suitable for Norma's requirements, and every pregnant animal is brought into the milking herd to familiarise them with the routine of entering and exiting the parlour. They can also enjoy a little concentrate food while Norma ties their legs in the simulated process of milking. All the animals on the farm are treated with kindness, and this shows, particularly in the amount of quality milk produced. The cows in milk get a 19% protein concentrate in the form of cubes rather than meal at a rate of 450 grams for each litre of milk produced at the beginning of lactation, and this tails off to 350 grams near the end of lactation. In addition to the concentrates, the cows in milk are given teff in separate pens after milking.
Okay, swing across there and just get that.
Hygiene is the order of the day, and the cow's teats are treated with a solution which closes the teat opening and prevents any fly infestation.
Pump it now. Well.
Once the milking process is complete, the milk is then pumped through a see-through pipe into a bulk storage tank in the dairy. Whilst being pumped into the storage tank, the milk is strained. The required amount of milk is then pumped into the cheese vat. The vat is made of stainless steel and filled with water and slowly heated. A quarter teaspoon of starter is added to the milk in the form of freeze-dried lactic acid bacteria imported as a powder. These bacteria, under warm conditions, are allowed to grow while the milk in the thermostatically controlled vat is heated to 32 degrees centigrade. During the cheddar process, there are 3 different temperature changes, from 32 to 35 to 38 degrees centigrade. Apart from rennet powder to set the milk, Norma only adds salt. No coloring or artificial enzymes are added. The solid milk is then cut into 1 centimeter cubes by using a traditional curd knife. After cutting with the curd knife, the whole mixture is stirred up again and the temperature increased to 38 degrees.
We're up to 36 now, so I have got those meters on this.
Once the acidity has been tested, and Norma does this by feel, the whey is drained. The whey is not thrown away but collected in buckets and fed to the calves on the farm. I helped Dennis feed the calves and they were more than pleased to see us. They guzzled away and couldn't get enough of it. The curd is then heaped to the sides of the vat and a channel is created through the middle where the rest of the whey is drained. The curd is then cut into slabs. The next step is known as the cheddaring process, which is the orderly stacking of slabs of curd on top of each other and needs to be done in a special way.
Does each batch have to weigh a certain parameter?
Then all the curd, now in slabs, is weighed to determine how much salt will be required based on 30 grams to 1,8 kilograms of curd. Before adding the salt, the curd slabs are broken up with a hand-operated curd mill, and only then is the salt added and mixed in thoroughly. The salted curd is then heaped into these antique oak molds. This is done by wetting a cheesecloth with cold water and lining the molds with it. Salted curd is placed into the molds, after which pressure on the cloth-bound curd is necessary. Norma does this by using motor jacks and concrete blocks. This is left for a few hours and then taken out. The cloth is washed, the curd turned over and put back in the cloth, and further pressure is applied which forces out more whey. Pressure is maintained for about 24 hours, after which the cheese is taken out of the cloth and placed on a wooden shelf where it matures naturally. The cheese is turned every day by hand. The stronger the cheese, the longer it has to be left to mature. Norma's cheese has become so popular that she rails her products to Durban and Port Elizabeth as well as Johannesburg. Cape Town will also soon be sampling her cheeses. All the equipment in the dairy is immediately hosed down with hot and cold water, and she uses a natural detergent once the cheese process is complete. Besides all this, Norma and her husband Dennis also house a large poultry contingent comprising geese, chickens and ducks. These supply them with meat and eggs plus a little profit from sales.
Norma, you have no TV. You don't listen to the radio. Why?
We enjoy a good book. We feel that other people's opinions are important, but not as important as ours. Our way of doing things suits us very well. We're not particularly hassled because if there's some bad news going on, it's usually over before we hear about it. If it's earth-shattering news, somebody's sure to tell us. We don't feel...
Don't you feel as if you're out of contact with reality?
I feel that we're the only ones who are in contact with reality, quite honestly. Our reality is here. It's our business to get down to hard facts. We work hard. I don't need the stress, and I'm sure Dennis doesn't, of what other people are worrying about. Why get into a mad panic because Iran's having a fight with Britain? But it really doesn't affect the pace of our life here at all. Our life is basically very smoothly running.
Norma Mundy, thank you very much for talking with me on Muamalechi.
Rod, it's been a real pleasure. We've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okey-doke.